Hello, I'm Mario Toneguzzi, managing editor of Canada's Podcasts. Joining me today is Jerry Greenall, Steve Messler, and Seth Rosenzweig. Um, we're going to talk about the Classroom Champions organization, and we're going to talk also about the Association of Fundraising Professionals and Jerry's involvement with the Energizing Communities Collective. Sorry about that. So let's talk first of all to Jerry, and if you could explain to me, I know that the association recently awarded you folks with the Outstanding Philanthropic Group Award for raising $4 million for the Classroom Champions, of which Seth and Steve are a part of. Can you talk just a little bit about what ECC is and how it came about? Oh,
Collective, or ECC, is a group of today 25 oil and gas companies. That number moves around a lot because they keep buying each other. But it was a group of oil and gas companies who pooled their resources over 3 years to contribute $4 million with the goal of delivering the Classroom Champions curriculum into every community in which we operate in Western Canada and across the Northern United States.
all right. Now, Steve, you were part of the Classroom Champions since the beginning. You are board chair of Classroom Champions. Talk a little bit about what the organization is and its purpose.
Oh, well, thank you for having us on, and thank you for highlighting the incredible work that our partners are doing here in Calgary. We've been able to talk about Classroom Champions a fair bit on this podcast, and I really am grateful for that. So, Classroom Champions is an SEL, social emotional learning organization, which is in the education world. We focus on what we call durable skills, workforce skills. And we focus with schools across North America, US and Canada, but in our backyard here, across Alberta, across Western Canada, you've got hundreds of schools that are engaging across both our regular districts as well as our First Nations. And really, we help schools solve their problems of attendance issues, engagement issues with kids, helping kids understand that doing big things in life is hard, and that being able to persevere through these things are skills that they can learn. Learning how to set a goal is a skill, and being able to, whether it's managing their emotions or being a leader or being teamwork, Classroom Champions help schools focus on the things that are really difficult for schools to teach.
All right. Seth, can you talk a little bit about what it means to have partners out there in the corporate community, especially what, the ECC has done and what it means for the organization to have that support. By the way, Seth is CEO of Classroom Champions.
So, Mario, thanks for having us as well. First, I'll just say, like, Jerry is humble and a pioneer and a get stuff done type of person. And so, when she puts her mind and focus on making a difference, she goes all in. And I think that is a testament, honestly, first to her and her belief in our work and the fact that every child deserves a champion and every child deserves to not just dream big, but to have the roadmap of how they're going to achieve big things in life, no matter where they live or their background, and brought together this amazing collective of energy companies that kind of decided, even though we may be competitors uh, in the workforce or in the business community, that will kind of drop our gloves and actually come together to do something special that we couldn't do alone. And that's
Mhm.
to come together, build a community effort, raise resources, and say that we want every child in the communities where we work to have access to this program and to be able to thrive in this program, which will set them up for life. And I think that that's a special thing that you don't see happen a lot, is for companies that are competitors in some ways or work together in other ways, really say we're going to come together to do something really special. And we've had great impact. And I think that we're in some ways we feel like we're just getting started. But if you look back over the last several years, like, we feel really proud of the impact that we've had on teachers, on children, on communities, and on employees of these companies that have all felt part of this effort.
So, Jerry, let's talk a little bit about the collective and how it all came about. What was the motivating factor of how this came into being?
I'm an energy girl to begin with and extremely proud of the oil and gas industry and knew that they are charitable in nature. Classroom Champions and the curriculum that they deliver speaks for itself. So the idea of us coming together as competitors and pooling our resources and achieving the economies of scale that we could to get this to every community in which we operate, it sold itself. Originally, I went out to five original. We approached it like an equity book. We went out to five original lead orders, had five companies instantly step up. Crescent Point had been one of them. It had been now Varen, but a long-time contributor to Classroom Champions. Them, along with ARC and Topaz and Spartan Delta, came in. And then we just approached the rest of the oil and gas companies and said, please join us in doing this. And we had tremendous uptake. And I'm extremely proud of the energy industry and the contributions it makes to its communities.
Okay, and Steve, tell me a little bit about the Classroom Champions reach over the years. Can you explain a little bit about that?
Yeah, no, I mean it's been an evolution, just like any other program or any other thing, right? We started small when we moved to Canada. When we expanded the organization from the US to Canada, we had, I think, 30 teachers across Canada that were involved in it. And year over year, we started seeing results happening in the classrooms and schools. And when you do that, when your product gets results, your customers want more of that. So we started seeing more demand from schools, seeing more demand from teachers, seeing more demand from principals and then districts. And then I think for us, the really hockey stick moment happened a couple times. One time during the pandemic when people started to realize that you can build relationships virtually. And we have, some of Team Canada's greatest Olympians and Paralympians who are currently competing, not the gray-haired has-beens like me, but the folks who are out there doing it, who are showing kids, look, it's hard. I'm hurt this month. My goal is to get healthy, to go to the World Cup, to go compete. So as kids see that, and as also adults, like they're inspiring from us, for people who watched the Paris Olympics this past summer.
Mhm.
That's inspiring for us. So it really has the ability to catch on. And then the next hockey stick moment happened when Jerry discovered Classroom Champions and literally said, like, this is the thing that I'm seeing. I quite often, that first meeting that Jerry and I had, where we realized that there was something there and there was something to do more. I always think about Reverend Desmond Tutu has this fantastic quote, which is, at some point you have to stop pulling the bodies out of the river and go upstream and see why they're falling in. And Jerry had been at Whole Services on the mental health side, and she was on their finance. She chaired their finance and audit committee, so she would see how much they're spending when young adults, teenagers and young adults get to these places with mental health issues and challenges. And Jerry saw what Classroom Champions did and saw that being the opportunity to see, maybe we can get them to not fall in the river anymore there. And then with those combination of factors, and then the resources, and Jerry said to me, she literally said, Mario said, how much is it going to take for us to make this available to every single community across oil and gas, both regular and First Nations? And we came up with, we ran the numbers, and we realized that would take about $4 million to make that happen. And we got to work. And Jerry was in those meetings. She was pounding the pavement with me, like she said. And like Seth said, she's humble. And like Jerry said, there was a plan to it. And we built it and built it and built it from there.
Now, Seth, I know you're not originally you're from Calgary, right?
My second home now, Mario. So I'm currently in Calgary, so I do love the city and the people.
Tell me, from your perspective of coming here, and I think Calgary has a reputation of being quite philanthropic, and the corporate sector really comes to play, so to speak, when it comes to charities and stuff. What have you experienced and seen, and has it surprised you at the level of support from the corporate sector, especially the energy sector, of course?
I mean, listen, I think at the end of the day, I've been in the philanthropic space my entire career, right? I've traveled the US and now Canada, and I'll say that one is people really care about the youth and the future. This is a city, like I grew up in Boston area where I live now, a lot historical old city, this is like a rebirth of a city over and over again, but it's still very young and youthful.
Hmm.
But people care and people want to make a difference and they want to feel impactful and they care about the next generation and they're willing to do whatever it takes. And that could be a company or a corporate entity, or that could be an individual or a foundation. But I've been really inspired by the community coming together to want to do better and to want to make a difference and to basically say there's nothing that will get in our way to achieve that goal. And that's kind of what Jerry started, the movement that she created for this industry.
And it's so hard too, if I can jump in, Mario. Like, and I think that's where, Jerry and I really first conceived of being able to do this, it's so hard to reach these communities. We're talking about places that are hours away from, cities and metropolises. So they
Yeah.
don't get, there's no way to provide robust programming to them. There's no way to provide ways for these kids to feel that they're connected and that people care about them. And that's been a strength of Classroom Champions all along. It's been virtual all along, well before COVID, because of the nature of the people that we're working with. We have, again, Indigenous athletes that are traveling the world to compete.
Hmm.
They can't come into the schools all the time. And I think the confluence of the way the energy industry works, where the energy industry works, and the needs of those communities multiplied times the way Classroom Champions work and the scalability. And I'd love to hear Jerry pipe in on this one of how she thought about that scalability between the two.
Hmm.
Though, yeah, like Steve said, those communities in which we operate are not, these kids don't have these types of athletes and people to look up to help them. And those are the lower socioeconomic type environments where this programming has such a great success ratio on giving kids the skills to avoid the troubled waters, like Steve said, and to catch them early so we're not spending the dollars later on in life. I think Steve and I went out with the statistic because I'm a math kid and I needed to sell it. But a dollar invested today was $11 in savings in the future. That's a massive return on investment, which once we explained it to the C-suite of these oil and gas companies, it immediately resonated with them. And we knew we could make a significant impact in these communities. And given that we just come out of COVID when we started this, we knew the crisis that we were looking at coming down the pipe at us. And we have to do some sort of work to prevent those kids from ending up in those later stage organizations to help them after the trouble's already set in.
Yeah. One last question for you, Jerry. Where do we go from here with the collective? Does it continue to raise funds? Does it grow? Like, what's happens next?
That's our hope, is that the companies that are currently in the collective continue to stay in the collective because they've seen the results of the collective and what we told them we would deliver, we have delivered. And there's a handful of companies out there that they can be warned that haven't joined the collective yet, that are on the radar to join the movement and to make sure that we expand our horizons just past the operating communities that we operate in, but all across Canada. And we want to help Classroom Champions meet their goal of 1 million kids.
All right. And Seth, from an organizational point of view with Classroom Champions, where do you guys go from here?
Think it's the intersectionality between continuing to make sure we're delivering for the kids and teachers and classrooms and communities that need it most, while figuring out a way to look at real scalability over the next several years. And so that every child and every community and every teacher and every community can access this program and benefit from the program. So I think it's a little bit of a let's sharpen our pencils and make sure that we have the right programs to go to the communities that's having the impact that we say we're going to have, while at the same time, we can't wait, right? We know there's a mental health epidemic and a loneliness epidemic, and schools and teachers and classrooms need this more than ever. So we have to move quickly.
Okay, last word to you, Steve. Classroom Champions, what's next? What's the potential for the organization into the future?
Hi. From an idea with my sister who's got her PhD in education to the kitchen island at my old training residence to now seeing Seth as our leader and our CEO and Jerry as one of our champions, here in Western Canada as well as across the country. I have no reason to think that we're not going to be able to bring this to every single school in Canada. Our athletes are hungry for that. Again, our Team Canada athletes and Olympians and Paralympians, Indigenous athletes they want to do more. They understand, they've now seen the impact. They used to think that their impact would help kids get into sports, of which it does. But ultimately, when you can talk about things like attendance and grades and behavior improvements in schools, those are the academic outcomes that we're all looking for from our tax dollars. And then when you think about the collective of companies, now over 25 companies here, just here in Calgary,
Yeah.
that have come together in a way that this industry hasn't from a programming standpoint before. They've come together in smaller groups for capital projects. But when you're talking about investing in these communities, these energy companies have 20, 30, 40-year investments in these communities, and making sure that these schools are strong, making sure that the citizenry is strong, making sure that these kids can graduate from high school with the skills that are needed. And those skills are, less and less the reading, writing, arithmetic kind of things, because computers and AI are taking a lot of those things, and more they are, can you relate to other people? Can you handle the pressure? Can you persevere through the issues and obstacles that are going to happen in life? And I think that's when I think about the opportunity that we have, I'm just so proud, honestly, of the city. I'm proud of the companies. I'm proud of the leaders who stepped up to do this. And I'm, incredibly excited about having Seth and Jerry be two of our leaders at Classroom Champions. So thank you for having us on. And Seth and Jerry, thank you both. We could never have imagined this, but you guys can, and you guys have. And I'm forever grateful for that.
All right. Well, thanks so much, every one of you, for joining us on Canada's podcast today.